What's going on, y'all? Shout out to the LDBC. It's your boy Fight Critic here to give you guys another video. And in recent days, we have learned that Deontay Wilder's manager, Shelly Finkel, has moved away from the mediation period between Fury and Wilder to now stepping towards an arbitrator. Now, I know that legal terms can be extremely confusing, but given that number one, I spent a lot of time when I was in college learning about how economics affects the law, but also my sister works at a law firm, so I tend to have a little bit more access to things from a legality standpoint than a lot of people would. And in many ways, even my own attorney is in the same office that my sister works in. By the way, guys, if you don't have an attorney, you should definitely get one. It's definitely worth it. But just to kind of divert back to this, as you know, Wilder and Fury have been going back and forth about the details of their contract that they signed that contractually obligated the loser of their fight to install a third fight. Their third fight hangs in the balance because of the force majeure period in which all contracts have it. This is nothing new. It's nothing special. But given some sort of ungodlike situation, or godlike situation, I should say, if it forces any part of the party not to be able to fulfill their contract, then there is a period of time where if it expires, it allows one party to step away from it. Now, given the situation that's happened with COVID, and given the situation that's happened with Fury and Wilder, COVID did affect their ability to go back into a third fight negotiations. But I think the big key here is that Fury had already pushed himself to negotiate or begin the talks for a Joshua fight before he had settled this situation. So that is why Wilder's team has been seeking mediation to try to get both sides to agree to a third fight rather than just letting Fury go and take the Joshua fight. Obviously, Deontay Wilder wants to get that third fight, and he wants to put himself back in a position to get a Joshua fight. Fury is looking to move on from the situation given everything that kind of happened as a result of the second fight, and he doesn't want to fight Wilder for a third time. The problem in this situation is that when you deal with a mediator, you're looking at the aspects to both sides coming to an agreement, and the mediator is just there to be persuasive. But if both sides can't agree to it, then the side that wants things to be pushed forward can seek an arbitrator. And the arbitrator is not about persuasion. The arbitrator is not about trying to get both sides to agree to something. The arbitrator has to look at the law and look at the contract and make a decision that is based off of the evidence that is provided by both sides. So think of the arbitrator as technically a judge. So that's where Shelly Finkel is leading to, where he wants an arbitrator to step into the talks and to essentially look at the contract that they had signed, look at the evidence that they have built that says that they should get a third fight, in hopes that an arbitrator rules in their favor. And for Tyson Fury and Bob Arum, he's a former lawyer, he's a former attorney, and he is no stranger to these talks of arbitration. I think for Bob Arum, it annoys him more than anything, because all this does is just drag out more time that he could be spending trying to get the Joshua fight. And you've seen that frustration built in. But the thing about Bob is, if Bob was in this position, he would be doing the same exact thing. He would be pushing things to an arbitrator to get things solved, especially when you know millions of dollars are on the line. So when people have reached out and said that they're just trying to figure out how much Wilder's going to get paid, it didn't make sense for you to go to a mediator to decide who gets paid. You can kind of just figure that out on your own. And it definitely doesn't make sense to go to an arbitrator to figure out how much you want to pay Wilder to step away from the situation either. The payment just seems to be something that Bob Arum threw out there. And it also just seems like the payment is something that he wants to give Wilder and put enough public pressure on him to take so that he can walk away from the situation. But the legality around Wilder and Fury having a third fight, that seems to be what they're arguing in the mediation and arbitration talks. So when people talk about this sort of payment that Wilder is seeking, if Wilder is seeking a payment, he would have never went to an arbitrator. His managers wouldn't. Even his mediators probably wouldn't either, unless he was suing for money. No, he's getting this lawsuit because he wants the third fight. And I think the money is just being a counter argument or a proposal that's being set on Arum's side. But we'll see what happens. This is going to get a lot more interesting.